First, I want to thank y'all for, I guess you did not choose me, but thank you for showing up with your full selves, because for me this is a treat. I was a teacher in that I taught for 2 years at Teach for America, and I have nothing but envy for you, because I wish that I had actually gone to school to be a teacher. When I was doing TFA in 2007, we had 14 instructional days before we actually were in the classroom as heads of our own classrooms. So I asked, what did the southern states say about God? Stepping out and talking to you as teachers for a moment, I like showing students that I'm just Googling, right? That I'm just I am at home like you, just being Robert E. Lee racist or not. I'm just about that nature of inquiry. That's my nature of inquiry. I don't know if that's your process, but that's what I find. And I tell them, it's fine to go to Google, and it's fine to go to Wikipedia, as long as you follow it through to the primary source of where it came from. It's just, people don't like Wikipedia because the laziness of being it's from Wikipedia. But that's always where I start, and I make that clear. So, that's how we found the Mississippi Declaration of Causes. These documents are the individual declarations of independence that each state wrote as they were leaving. At the at the secession conventions, there's going to be thousands of Southern lawmakers for each Southern lawmakers and citizens for each of these seceding states. This is the very beginning. We talk to students about topic sentences, right? So it is but just that we should declare the prominent reasons which have induced our course. Such a grand statement, right? It is but just that we should declare the prominent reasons. And then they get into reason number 1. Our position is thoroughly identified with the institution of slavery, the greatest material interest of the world. Its labor supplies the product which constitutes by far the largest and most important portions of commerce on the earth. There's a clarity for me in that. As soon as we see the greatest material interest in the world, it's done for me. Right? Like there's such beautiful clarity about nothing makes as much money as this. Why would we ever do it?
Here, it's no, it's her money. That's our only worry. And then if you go on further, it's only the black race can bear exposure to tropical sun. So arguably, they're saying that's one improvement that they have over white people.
I laughed aloud at that statement that I was wait, you guys weren't just talking about money, you were the only people who can get warm are black people, and that's why we've made them work in the sun. Right? And already, if I'm stepping out and talking to teachers, I try to use humor, not to lighten things with students, but as pedagogy. Humor is they're already ready to roast. And when we can open up to them, roast this. What is the thing that doesn't make sense? Students have said to my face, they're okay, hold up, Mr. Hunt. How is he saying that slavery is our natural and normal condition when we were literally kidnapped and brought here? So, the theory that I am operating on, which might be very basic to you, is that talking about public memory is this beautiful back door that we get into these conversations. This back door that people cannot legislate us out of. The simple statement is public memory equips students to examine how the past is not past. It is not opening up the lesson and saying, today I'd like to talk about white supremacy. It is not opening up the thing and being about raise your hand if you know what lynching is. It is just simply, let's talk about this guy. Who was this guy? Who put him here? What did they say when they erected him in 1915? Who are the white supremacist groups who have rallied here? How long did it take for community members to get this down? Once they said we need to take this down and replace it with a symbol that represents all of us, how did vigilante violence delay that, and how many days were delayed with that? Right? So it is a way to talk to students about the story that we are all handed, and how the past has literally shaped the present. The main thing I talk to them about then is the need to then search for receipts. I'm trying to get students hyped about primary source documents. We study Hammurabi's Code. We study the Magna Carta. How is it that we do not study the founding documents to the one nation that broke away from the United States? I want them thinking about strategies of filmmakers, right? Not just that we have a bunch of wild receipts, right? Not just that it's like, okay, what did Alexander Stevens' dry lips say? Not just, talking to them about, okay, where's the hole in this argument? If we're digging up this receipt, what might people say? And students will tell me, well, it's just one guy, he is the vice president, but we need more information. So then being able to push them to say, look, I'm Googling, I'm not going straight to the library. So then I'm Googling, what did the states say themselves? Here's what the states said themselves. Our position is thoroughly identified with slavery. Right? It's not just about walking them through these. What was said at the dedications? Julian Carr in 1913 literally bragging about horsewhipping a Negro wench back when we could. Right? Talking about this in 1913. And students are like, dang, that receipt is more powerful to me because it shows how they stayed talking about this. Right? What did black people at the time say about these things? Frederick Douglass, so funny, calling these literally a needless record of stupidity and wrong. Being able to show students holes of this whole conversation about receipts has been about white men. What did black people at the time say about this thing that you feel is BS? Right? And then how do we learn to search for those voices when we're back in the receipts? It is talking students through these receipts. It is having them talk with each other about if you could only pick 3 of these to make your scene. What 3 of these receipts are more important to you? Are you going straight for Jefferson Davis? Are you going, no, we're not even going to deal with the causes. I'm just going to talk about statue dedications. Does Frederick Douglass factor into the film that you would make because it's important to show what black people thought about these? So it's not only like, hey, here's how I look for receipts. I'm out there Googling. I'm going to primary sources. But having them picture themselves as a filmmaker about what are the techniques that bring receipts to life. So you all saw my film, The Neutral Ground. Sometimes I spend 82 minutes trying to tell a story. And then my day job is, raise your hand if you've watched The Daily Show with Trevor Noah. Cool. This is just a divide of like, this is a big show, and like some of you guys are like, I think I've seen it. That's cool, you're watching better stuff. But this has been my day job, trying to figure out how to use comedy to make people care about stuff that they don't normally care about. It's like, how do we figure out how to use comedy about a really serious issue to make people actually care? Or if it's about Black Lives Matter and people are like, that's a terrorist organization, they want to take all the money from the police. We're like, why are you guys flipping out when we're asking you to literally like have more resources to help people? You need papers to be able to fact check liars in real time. Politicians, adults, school leaders, people who run school districts, people who run police departments, people will lie to you. They will pass policy based on a lie, and the rest of the public will have no tools to understand why that doesn't feel right. And we need to write a paper or know how to argue because the people in power will depend on you not knowing the truth. You are lying to us and you're hoping we don't know how to do the research. Right? So that's everything I do now is just a research paper trying to be like, who's lying? How does it have power? And how can we show that that's a lie? And I hope that when you're watching this thing about Confederate monuments, that's why I'm making the thing about Confederate monuments. I'm like, that dude's definitely a slaver. Right? This man wanted to keep 68% of New Orleans and people who look like me in chains. So when y'all say it's okay to have 60 feet tall in the air, I think that's a lie, and we should figure out how to topple that, right? Okay, next thing. First question. This is Jefferson Davis. Give me a hand if you can tell me who Jefferson Davis was. I got one. I'm holding on one. No other hands. Y'all watched a movie and we can't name who Jefferson Davis is? Who is it?
He was the president of the Confederacy.
President of the Confederacy. Great. So this is his plaque. I think you can see it on your Pear Decks. Great. So it remembers him as a soldier, statesman, patriot. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to think on your own. Tell me what is the weirdest word on his plaque. What do we got?
Me?
Yep.
Statesman.
Statesman? Why is it weird?
I don't know.
I don't know.
A statesman is like somebody who speaks for the entire state, right? So they might be like, Barack Obama, such a good statesman. So I think statesman's weird because it's like, yo, half the state is black and you're trying to keep us enslaved. You are not a statesman for us. So I agree that that's weird. Who's got another weirder word?
Patriot.
Raise your hand if you agree with that. Why?
I don't know, it just don't, I've seen it immediately, and it don't look like it's supposed to be.
It doesn't feel right. Why doesn't it feel right? Who wants to build on this? For the dude who led the war against America, why doesn't it feel right to call him a patriot?
If you're a patriot, you support America.
If you're a patriot, you support America. What did you say about it?
It's a lie.
It's a lie. Yeah, to me, monuments are more like your Instagram bio, right? Or more specifically, like they're your Instagram name, right? It's like, it's not true necessarily. It's just an image that you were using. And the only difference is that my Instagram name isn't going to stay up for 100 years.
Right.
And if I built my Instagram name in stone and put it in the middle of a town, people aren't going to be like, you can't destroy that. CJ was killing it all the time and going to film festivals and being handsome in suits, right? Like, that's the history. That would be weird if I put that in stone and was like, that's true. And if you try to move this, you hate America, right? Like, that would be weird. But that's what Confederate monuments are. What message do we think this is supposed to send to the citizens of New Orleans?
He a boss?
I want you to hold, but it's perfect. He the boss, right? Like, literally, he is the boss. Yes, anything for the back
You said
table.
he helped slaves, right?
Yeah.
It just kind of gives me like whoever made it was a racist.
So, yes, maybe that whoever made it is a racist. Do you think the statute is trying to fess up to whoever made it is a racist?
Okay, but like, who, since he didn't put his own monument up there, like, who put, like, how do you get the authority to put a monument in, like, a state?
Beautiful question. One of my favorite questions of the day. I'm going to just put it up here on my invisible board of when we're looking at how to topple lies, one big question is, what's this supposed to tell us? Is he the boss of slaves? Like, that is actually what this is supposed to mean to folks. Then the other question I heard was, who actually built it, right? Because he didn't build it to himself. Does anyone have any other questions that we should be thinking about if we're trying to topple the myth of this lie? Why was it put up? Beautiful. So I've got 3 questions on my board. What else?
What purpose does it serve?
What purpose does it serve then or now?
Now.
Now, what purpose does it serve now? Why is this thing still up? But I am hunting for receipts. When I say I'm hunting for receipts, raise your hand if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah, that's the proof.
Yeah, you can put your hands down. Sometimes we need to check people on Twitter with receipts. I look for receipts. I don't start in a library. I start on Google. And I'm like, is Robert E. Lee racist or not? Right? Like, I'm just looking up questions to try to bring me to my stuff. So, I'm going to show you 4 receipts, and then I'm going to ask you to work in groups to tell me which are the top 2. So, I'm going to speed through these because my time is ticking away. You have this on here, and all I want you to tell me is if this receipt is dope or not. And already, like, if I'm stepping on top of this teacher, I try to use humor, not like to lighten things with students, but as pedagogy. Like, humor is, like, they're already ready to roast. And when we can open up to them, like, roast this. Like, what is the thing that doesn't make sense? When you find juicy receipts that show us the ghost, that show us the monster in action, what are the artistic ways that we use that receipt to show a reality that does not necessarily occur to people? Is it with color? Is it with using graphic effects to transpose the actual document into real space? Is it subverting the words of a white supremacist by placing it in the mouth of somebody else? How do we it's depressing, but the truth is not enough. So it's like, what are we doing as researchers, as writers, as filmmakers to extend the power of what was written?